Good day, class. I welcome you to PHA 301, which is Pharmacodynamics and Chemotherapy. This is study session 1, which will introduce you to clinical pharmacology and chemotherapy. Moving to the introduction, clinical pharmacology is the study of drugs and their clinical use. In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, Francis Mengele and Claude Bernard began to develop the methods of experimental animal physiology and pharmacology. When new ideas and techniques were introduced, information was got about drug action and the biologic substrate of that action, which is the receptor. At the end of this study session, you should be able to define clinical pharmacology, chemotherapy, pharmacokinetics, and pharmacodynamics. You should be able to describe and highlight the different dosage forms and drug nomenclature. You should be able to explain essential drug and various routes of drug administration and differentiate between orthodox and traditional medicine. Looking at the definition of terms, pharmacology is the study of substances that interact with the living systems through chemical processes, especially by binding to regulatory molecules and activating or inhibiting normal body processes. Clinical pharmacology is the science of substances used to prevent, diagnose, and treat diseases. Pharmacology simply is the science of drugs. Chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is the treatment of systemic infection or malignancy with specific drugs that have selective toxicity for the infecting organism or the malignant cell, with no or minimal effect on the host cell. Chemotherapy is a category of cancer treatment that uses chemical substances, especially one or more anti-cancer drugs, that are given as part of a standardized chemotherapy regimen. Chemotherapy may be given with a curative intent, or it may aim to prolong life or to reduce symptoms, along with hormonal and targeted therapy. It is one of the major categories of medical oncology. Drugs. Drugs are chemicals that change the way a person's body works. A drug, in the broadest term, is a chemical substance that has a known biological effect on humans or animals. Drug is any substance or product that is used or intended to be used to modify or exploit physiological systems or pathological states for the benefit of the recipient. And foods are generally excluded in spite of their physiological effect on animal species. Drugs may be used for a limited duration or on a longer basis, especially in chronic disorders. Drugs can be in different forms. It can be in solid form, liquid form, or gaseous form. Example of the solid form is paracetamol tablet, which is known as acetaminophen, and ampicillin capsules. The liquid form can be in form of propranolol and formaldehyde, while drugs can be divided into pharmacodynamic agents and chemotherapeutic agents. Drug nomenclature. This has to do with naming of drug. How do we name drugs? We name drugs based on 1. Chemical name, 2. Non-proprietary name, and 3. The brand name, which is the proprietary name. The chemical name, for example, can be like 1-isopropyl amino 3-propanolol, which is the simple name for propanolol. This kind of name is somehow cumbersome and not suitable for use in prescribing drugs. The non-proprietary name is a name that is accepted by a competent body, such as the United States, adopted name, council, NAFDAC, and so on. Then the proprietary name is the name that is assigned by the manufacturer to the drug. This is his property or his trademark. For example, one drug may have more than one proprietary name, like atenolol. It's also called Altor, it's also called Artin, it's also called Betacard, Lonulol, and etc. Essential drug concept. The World Health Organization defined essential drugs as those drugs that satisfy the priority healthcare needs of the population. They are selected with due regard to the public health relevance, evidence of efficacy and safety, and comparative cost effectiveness. Those drugs that can meet the healthcare needs of the majority of the people in any country, which are tested and not expensive, should be considered by the government as essential drugs. And WHO has laid down criteria for a drug to be considered as an essential drug. It includes the drug must have adequate data on its efficacy and safety, which should be available from clinical studies. The drug should be available in form in which quantity, including the bioavailability and stability in storage, can be assured. Its choice should depend upon pattern of prevalent diseases availability of facilities and trade personnel, financial resources, genetic, demographic, and other and environmental factors. Also, when there are two or more similar drugs, choice should be made on the basis of their relative efficacy, safety, quality, price, and availability. There's what we call cost-benefit ratio, which should be a major consideration for a drug to be an essential drug. Also, choice may also be influenced by comparative pharmacokinetic properties and local facilities for manufacture and storage. Most essential drugs should be single compounds with fixed ratio combination products should be included only when dosage of each ingredient meets the requirements of a defined population group and when the combination has a proven advantage. What are the routes of drug administration? There are different routes of drug administration, like you can see on your screen. We have the oral route, we have the parenteral route. The three main parenteral routes are the subcutaneous, intramuscular, and intravenous routes. We also have topical routes, that is, drugs are applied topically for local action. Drug absorption is through sweat glands, hair follicles, sebaceous glands, and through the stratum corneum. We have the respiratory route too, that is, the lung will provide an excellent surface for absorption when the drug is delivered in gaseous or aerosol form. Traditional medicine. Traditional medicine is defined by the World Health Organization as a sum total of knowledge and practice, whether explicable or not, which is used in diagnosis, prevention, and elimination of physical, mental, and social imbalance, and rely extensively on experience and observation that is handed down from generation to generation, whether verbally or written. There are differences between orthodox medicine and traditional medicine. Traditional medicine is not well regulated by the government, while orthodox medicine is well regulated. Traditional medicine is closer to the people, while orthodox medicine is not as close to the people. They have to travel far at times to get access to orthodox medicine. Traditional medicine is usually cheaper, while orthodox medicine sometimes are expensive. Traditional medicine practitioners sometimes make some mistakes, which is uncommon in orthodox medicine. To practice orthodox medicine, one has to go through an established school for at least 6 years after good WAEC results, whereas it is not so with traditional medicine. The dosages of drugs in orthodox medicine is well regulated and measured before administration. This is not so with traditional medicine. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.